So hi to all. So in this topic we are going to discuss about like a load balancing with auto scaling. So what is load balancing with auto scaling? So I think maybe you have the idea about what a load balancing. So let us say example from the internet when the number of users hitting for this web services, the first request maybe go to the web server 1 and the second request go to the web server 2, like this is going to pass for the different web servers. So the elastic load balancer in the AWS, so what will do, it is going to distribute the load between all the four web servers. But in this case, a small problem is there. Example, you can say, maybe in the peak hours, you can say we had a more traffic is there, and that's why we require the more number of the servers. But maybe you can say some of the non-peak hours, maybe you can say when there is a maybe some holiday, some places point of view, what is going to happen, we don't require these four web servers, maybe one or two web servers is okay. So in this basically what is going to happen, even the load may be less or more also, always the server capacity is fixed for the four web servers. So what is going to happen in this scenario now? So the basic problem we can say it became as a more expensive, because when the load becomes as a more, if you go for like a more number of web servers is fine. When there's no load, even though if you go for like a more number of web servers, automatically become as a more expensive. So how to overcome this problem? To overcome this problem, we'll go for something called as auto scaling. So we'll go for the concept called as auto scaling. So let us say example, I have the load balancer is there, which is my load balancer. So the auto scaling group, it is started with the one instance only. And by using this URL, I can able to access this web server now. So my scenario, what is actually required? When the load increases, then auto scaling group automatically has to launch the multiple instances depend upon my load. So when you go for auto scaling, so the group size, we can start with the one instance now. The group size, I'm starting with the one instance, and I'm going to configure this auto scaling group size. When the load is increased, I'm going to scale between the number of instances between the 1 to 4. The meaning of this one by default is going to start with the one instance. Whenever the load increases, this has to launch like a second instance and third instance automatically depend upon the load. For this, what we'll do now. See, when the load increases, see automatically the auto scaling group it is going to launch like a new instance, the web services. Again, one more thing. So between these two instances, the load balance is going to configured by the which one, load balancer. So again, still the load more load is there. Again, the auto scaling group is going to launch the one more instance. So now between these two web services, what is going to happen now? The load is going to distribute it. Again, still more load. So it's going to launch like the fourth instance because I configure my scaling between the instance 1 to 4 instances. So similar way, see suppose when you're launching like a multiple instance, so I try to what is going to happening. and all these 4 instances running now automatically. So now this auto scaling group is launching the 4 instances. These are default instance. When the load increases, it started like a second instance. Still more load, one more instance is started, and still more load is started like the fourth instances. So between these 4 instances, what is going to happen? The load is going to distributed by the elastic load balancer. But this auto scaling group, what will do? Depend upon the load, is going to launch the new instances when you got a more load is there. And the next one, when the load may be less, what is going to happen? So right now we can see the 4 instances are running now. Whenever you can see the load may be less, the load is decreased, what is going to happen? This auto scaling group is automatically going to terminate the instances. See now what is going to happening now? This auto scaling group is automatically going to terminate the one of instance now. And still again the less load is there. So again it's going to terminate the one more instance. So you can see this one more instance also is going to terminate and now. So by using the auto scaling group, what you can do, whenever you can say load is more, depend upon the load, what you can do, we can scale up or scale down the instances. So we can able to reduce the cost also. So by using the auto scaling, and as well with help of the load balancing, we can able to provide the load between the all the instances. So we can go for the lab, how we can able to count the load balancing with auto scaling. See for this what you can do means the step 1, we need to create like a elastic load balancer. So the step 2, create a image for the web server is optional. I'll show it because already in my AWS console already I created as a one of the AWS image also in my image for web server also. And the step 3, launch the AMI instance using the auto scaling and configure the auto scaling policies. Then access the web server using the elastic load balancing. There is some elastic load balancer DNS name is there. By using that URL, access that one, we'll get a web page. Next step, what you can do is increase the CPU load on the instance 1. Right now, which is my first instance. When increase the load on the instance 1, the auto scaling policy it is going to land the second instance and third instance and the fourth instance respectively depend upon the load. Still, if you got the more load is there, is keep on increasing the number of instances. Then the step 7 you can say modify the index.html file for web server 2, 3 and 4. Why I'm modifying this file means whether load balancing is working or not, just to check it out. Because when you go for like a refresh the pages, so it's automatically connected to like a different service servers. For the first time for the server 1, for the second time server 2, server 3 like this way. The next step what you can do means reduce the load on the instance 1. Then the auto scaling policy has to terminate the instances sequentially. So now we can see this one the lab. So I'm going to access my AWS console. So we can go to the EC2 services. See right now we can say I don't have any instance running here. And I created one of my AMI image. So we have the 2 AMI images are there. I prepared already. So we got one thing called auto scale web server is there. So the first step what you can do means here you need to go for the elastic load balancer. So in the left hand side, we can find that the load balancing is there. We can go to the load balancer, and the load balancers right now we don't have any load balancers here. I'm creating as a load balancer, the classic load balancer for HTTP, for HTTPS, for TCP. So I'm creating like a classic load balancer. In the next video, I'll prepare like a application load balancer also. So I'm going to explain about a classic load balancer right now. I'm creating as a classic load balancer, my ELB, elastic load balancer. And you can go for like a default VPC and a load balancer protocol. I'm going for the HTTP and assign the security group. So right now I'm using as a default security group, and next one we can go for the L check. So we can go for keep it as it is, ping the protocol HTTP port number 80 and index.html. So maybe want to change the interval between the multiple servers, we can change the threshold value also. So in this I'm not adding the any instances now. Just I'm not adding any instances. Just add a tag, the name. So give the name as ELB web service. So review and create. So this will like a load balance is created. So just click on create, close. So now we got a load balancer, but there are no any instances now. There are no instances now. So the next step, what you can do is you need to go for the auto scaling. Under auto scaling, you can go for the launch configurations also, or whenever you can create like a auto scaling group, it automatically lands the new configurations. So create a auto scaling group. So launch configuration, or right now what you can do, we need to go for create a new launch configuration. Go to next step. So before explaining about some AMI images, so I got my own AMI image. There is something called auto scale web server. Just select it. So you can select like a free tier micro. These are all the things will be default. Configuration details. Now we can type like a auto scale web server. So all the options will be default, no need to change anything. And the storage. Storage will by default 8 GB. And the security groups, what you can do means we need to allow for not only for SSH, you need to go for allow for HTTP also. The auto scaling group number 8 is created. So go to review, create a launch. So already I have the existing key pair is there. So now it come to like a auto scale web server, and spelling wrong is there, but not a problem. And a group name. my auto scale group 1. And here I want to launch like a how many instances and group size. And here you can see the group size. I'm going to start with one instance only. The next step, I want to go for totally how many instances? 4. You need to go for like a 4 subnets. I'm selecting the subnet 1, subnet 2, subnet 3, subnet 4 like this way. Now come to advanced details. So receive the traffic from the 1 hour load balancers. Select it. Load balancer name is the myelb. You can keep as it is. The next step, what you can do is configure the scaling policies. So in this scaling policies, keep this group as the initial size. So the pins is go for like only one instance only. But whereas I want to go for like a increase instances when the load going to increases. The scale between the 1 to 4, I'm going to increase from the 1 to 4. So 1 to 4. So the scaling policy here I'm going to configure between the 1 to 4 instances. So the next step I need to configure the policies, the scaling policies here now. When you click this option, we got options you can see here. Increase the group size. Increase the group size. So when you want to increase. So for this point of view, we need to create something called as execute policy. For this, we need to create alarms. So in alarms, you can see here, whenever the average CPU utilization is there, disk reads are there, or the network operations, network in, network out like this way. So just for demo purpose, I'm using the CPU utilization. When the CPU utilization, you can say example is greater than or equal, we got different options are there. So we got up to 80 percentage. When the CPU percentage may be 80 percentage or the 70 percentage, for at least this many periods, and the time count will go for like a 1 minute for the demo purpose. The real time will go for nearly some 15 minutes. So let us example, I'll give the name also for this one. Add instances when CPU load is more than 70 percentage. And it automatically send the notifications to my email ID. So create alarm. So here what the step action you need to take it, add one instance. An instance needs the time of, you can say example for 60 seconds. The pin whenever the one instance maybe got like overload and more than 70 percentage, after 60 seconds is going to warm up for the next instance. And if you come down here, we got a decreased group size also there. So we need to configure decreased group size also. Now in the decreased group size also execution policy similar way. Add a new alarm, CPU utilization. When the CPU utilization less than 30 percentage, at least for the 1 minute. So I'll get the name is called as remove the instance. Remove one instance when the CPU load decreases. create alarm, and action you can say remove the one instance. Now we'll go to the configure notifications. So one is going to launch a new instance or terminate instance, or the fail to launch the instance or the fail to terminate instance. It is going to send the notifications to my email ID, and they'll go for the configure tags. Auto scale web server. So review. See, now we can see here, we can find out my auto skill who is created. Launch name is called auto skill web server, and instances now we can say 0. When you say refresh, is going to launch the first instance now, the instance 1. And if you come down here, active activate history, so it's going to launch the one of instance. So desired capacity is 0, starting from 0 to 1. Now if you go to the instances, so we got the name of instance is auto scale web server. This is the tag we provided. Now we'll go to this public IP. Okay. This is my private key. So I'm logging as an EC2 user. So I'll check for this web service is started or not. So the service HTTPD, the status is running. Now go to this browser and go to this web page. So we got like a welcome to server 1, web server 1. Now if you go for your load balancer, so in the load balancer you can see here, already my auto scaling, it launched the one of instance. And this is a DNS name for accessing my web server. So copy this one. So by using that URL, I can able to access my web server now. And the next step, what you can do means you need to increase the load on this instance. So just to increase the load on the instance, I'm going for this command. You can see the top command. So now we got the CPUs and 00. So just try to increase the load. One more time. See, now we got 64 percentage or 98 percentage, still I'll increase the load. So just increase the load. Then the auto scaling policy automatically has to launch other instances, but it takes nearly some 5 minutes time. Right now, the auto scaling web server instance is only one and desired minimum one, maximum four. To refresh here, it takes some time. Only one instance is launched. So here, in the monitoring, enable the group metric collections. So still the seat utilization is less only, but it takes some time. So temporarily pause the video because taking some time. So you got like an email trigger also. Test notifications for group auto scaling group 1 is auto scaling group 1. So it started the first instance only. It takes some time. The cloud watch management also. We got something called add instance when the CP is more than utilization. It takes some time here. Add one instance. Now we can see the instance is 1 and desired 2. And if we refresh here, we're going to starting the one more instance. Now the second instance is starting now automatically. Now the second instance is already started automatically. You can see now, if you go for this one, is automatically going to the service load balancing. But we don't know is going to like web server 1 or web server 2. So what I'm doing is here, just a small trick I'm going to change here. I'll connect to this instance also. And SSH, I'll go for authentication, browse. So I connected to the second instance. Already created a web page. Be at index.html. So I'll change some different color here. I'll change to like a pink color and say it as a 2, web server 2. And service HTTPD reload. See, now if you go for this URL path, if you refresh, see now we got connected to web server 2. Again, if you refresh, it connected to web server 1. So the load balance is working, and as well as auto scaling is also working. So auto scaling, what is going to do actually, what is happening is keep on increasing the number of instances depend upon the load. And if you go for auto scaling groups, under auto scaling groups we can find out. So number of instances you can say 2, then you can say desired become as again 2, and if you go for the activity history, you can see here now one of the instance is launched now 1 to 2, before 0 to 1. If you wait for some time, it is going to increase one more instance also. So 2 instances. And if you go for the load balancer also, in the load balancer we can find out that 2 instances will be there in the service. See, there are 2 instances in service. One is from the US East 1C, US East 1E. And if you wait for some time, it's going to launch the one more instance, we tell for the auto scaling group. Now we can see we started like one more instance automatically. You can see the instances now. So we got one more instance started, and for this instance also just I will change the web page. City user. Quickly I'll go for this page. I'll change some different color just to understand how the load balance is working. So now we just go for service HTTPD reload. Now refresh this one. The connected web server 3, web server 1, web server 2, web server 3. My load balance is working. So we tell for the auto scaling is going to adding the number of instances depend upon the load. And still if you wait for some time, it's going to launch the one more instance also. So activity history, you can check it out. It started one more instance, 2 to 3. And I got a new mail also, the alarm. To launch the one more instance. The capacity is going to increase on the 1 to 2. If you wait for some time, it will get like one more mail also. So now we can see the number of instances, 4 instances, and waiting for instance for warm up. See, now we got the fourth instance also. This one, I take this. Here I'm going to change the same thing. CD index.html. So I'll change to some different color here. Some different color, the purple. Say example like my web server 4. Service HTTPD reload. See, consider now the load balance is working or not. We'll check it out. See, we got web server 4, web server 3, 2, 1. Now the load balance is working, and as well as by using the auto scaling policy is going to increase in the number of instances. Now what I can do is I'll reduce the load. Fill all as. Now the load is before it can say 99, now it became as a 40 percentage. Already is filled. Now everything is filled now. If you wait for some time, it's going to terminate the instances. Auto scaling groups. And if you wait for some time, it's going to terminate instances one by one. See, now the instances of 4 are there and desired at 3. Now what is going to happen is it is going to terminate in the one of the instance now. It will take some time. Refresh. See, now one of the instance is going to shutting down. Now if you go for like a load balancing, you can see here one of the server may be down. Server 4, server 2, server 3, server 4. That means server 1 is down. So like this, if you wait for some time, is automatically what is going to happen is going to terminate the remaining 2 instances. And group size, you can say start size 1. So by default, only one instance will be there. So with the help of this one, what you can do by using the load balancing with auto scaling, we can able to reduce the cost. We can able to manage the instances in a proper way. Whenever the load is required more, we'll go for the more load or less load. Depend upon that one, we'll go for auto scaling. Auto scaling with the load balancing. So when the load is increased like this way, when the load is decreases, is going to terminate in the instances like this way. It terminate one instance, and same way going to second instance also, third instance also, but it'll keep the one instance. So this is the way we can go for like a load balancing with auto scaling. So I got like a different mails also termination. So thanks for watching this video.